Hey, Limo, sorry about that. There's this one setting and it's just, I don't quite understand. When you schedule streams, it changes things and I'm not good at, I still have a lot to learn with that. It's kind of tricky. It's different than just setting it up normal, if that makes sense. Yeah, but like I was saying, I mean, these bar drawings, they're boring. They can be, and don't get discouraged with that. It's honestly, in my opinion, they'll help you in whatever you go into. It's very valuable work. It's valuable lessons. And the way that I look at it is that you guys who take the time to stream, y'all can do this stuff. I don't want to water the teachings down, and it might come at the sacrifice of maybe some frustration and some difficulty in the sense that you don't have somebody right next to you critiquing you. And I want to try to come up with a solution around that. But I really want to try to impart this information that I was very fortunate enough to stumble upon to other people, because I think that's what a lot of people seek. And one of the things I'll say just starting off is that there's no shortcuts to it. Shading and how you can turn form, of course. So shading, you can turn, like I spoke about before, you can turn form with lines. And so as getting past all of that, once you try to get the line quality the best you can, doesn't mean you need to refine the lines before you shade, but that assists in turning the form. But shading, one of the main things is, I would say when you first start, just go in one general direction. And just get the fluidity of hand. And when people first start shading, they kind of do one of these things where it's like, you see that? It's all kind of skipping around. You can do practice sketches like this, kind of like come here and then just go through and try to stay within the lines, you know, and just make it very even. And instead of like, I wouldn't shade like that, you see, because it makes it look fuzzy. You kind of want to go into the paper like, instead of putting it like this, you put it up some and just make it very fine, okay? And then you can go through and you see how like right here it kind of comes out. Quadro 27, hey buddy. It's great having you. So you can come here and just trim it off, okay? Now, keep in mind, if these lines are like horrible here, horrible, horrible, it actually will kill the effect of shading. Now, when it comes to shading, you can go with the form, you can go across it, right? Or you can go at a diagonal. Now, if you do all three, sometimes it looks very, very messy, but you can pull it off. But I would recommend, like at first, for example, like going through here. Let me show you something. Say we have this area here, okay? Look at this. Say we have that area, all right? And I go through and I shade it like this. All right, I shade it like that. Now this area on the side here is more refined. Let's make a little indiscrepancies here, like that, okay? Because I've seen it shaded kind of like this sometimes. It's kind of marked up, right? It's just been overworked. Maybe the lines aren't good here. Oh! Okay. And like, this is just like kind of messed up. Okay. So, you have bad lines, you have bad shading. But this is nice and smooth here, okay? So like, in a bar drawing like this, the main thing you're trying to do is just gain control of your hand, but learn these big shapes, because in painting, you're gonna be painting these big shapes in. This is gonna be a dark shape, this is gonna be a light shape, and you do it with brushwork. and then the brushwork and the transitional values right here are going to make a difference, right? You'll make this sharper, you'll cut in the light, and then you'll soften this up. Now, when you're doing a drawing like, let me show you, let me see if I have one over here. Where are they? Yeah. Okay. This is crap. That's crap. That's crap. Don't like that, don't like that. This one's okay. When you have a drawing like this, right, we are going through, and this takes some practice, and it's okay if you want to try it at first, but this is like, okay, so this arch is going back this way, so you can go with the form here, and then I sometimes cross it here, and then I go along the cheekbone here, and then go with the form here, right? So I kind of do these crosses, and every once in a while I'll do diagonals, but like this part right here is going up, and then this part goes through here, and you can sometimes even put a curve on it. But the main thing is you want to keep the impression, because when you focus on going in these directional, like these areas like this, going in a direction, sometimes it can start looking very splotchy, and you want to avoid that. All right, you want it so that when you squint down, it still has the overall effect and impression, right? And so that's why this is important, because you're just learning to get an even value and to control your technique and to really slow down with the work. This is one I did on stream as well, where you have it, I have this going kind of across the form, this going with the form, same here, it's going like directionally in opposite directions. Up here I have it going in a couple different directions. And the forehead, this really isn't worked out that much. But oftentimes if you just go with the form, it kind of loses some of its three-dimensionality, and it looks a little bit, it doesn't look right. But when I first started, I was just going like this, because like you can make all those values and stuff just going across like that. You really can, and that's what I would recommend starting out with. But I would also encourage you to start thinking about that. And I have to be honest with you, that type of technique kind of developed just from the rigorous training that they put us through. It's not that they came up and said, hey, look, do it like this, necessarily. It was more from observation, watching people do it and such, and just practice, because once you get that type of practice, it'll come. Does that help, or is there anything specific that you're wondering about? But the main thing is just striving for clean technique. See, even here, like, it's a little bit splotchier than I had it. And one thing people forget is they can use the eraser, like I shape it like this, and then I can go in and I kind of like slowly squint down a little bit, and you don't go down to the paper, but you kind of bring the value up some where you see it. And if you squint down, you can see slight indiscrepancies in your work. And so you can kind of go through and smooth this out. You can also use a stub, which I don't do because for me it makes it a little bit too smooth, but that's a preference that I have, and there's nothing wrong with it. And sometimes, you know what, it depends on where I am in my brain, and sometimes I might feel like, yeah, let's do something different, and I'll try that. It's not wrong to do. So there we go. So we got the shadow back, and then we're going to go through and try to work this this value up a little bit, these line values, line quality rather. Get it back, and I'm going to go in the opposite direction here, and going the opposite direction, it will help smooth it out some. Now, if I want to shade light, notice how I bring my hand back here like this. If I want to go through and get detail, I bring it close up, okay? I heard that the pressure and sharpness of the pencil are important for an even value. Yes, exactly. You don't want to, like I said, you don't want to put the pencil to like too flat. Like if this is the surface right here, you want the pencil probably about right here, and that's why you want it sharpened the way that you do. You don't want it down like that where you're shadowing the whole thing. Now, it depends on what you're doing, but for this type of stuff, I always have it, I would say, shoot, I'm bad at degrees, maybe a 40-degree angle or something. That makes sense. All right. And yeah, you go lightly over it and you keep the pencil sharp. And the pencil will wear down after some time, and that's why you can go through and slowly keep on turning it. So you see, we slowly build it up, and I'll go through and I'll start darkening this because I don't want to spend forever on this because I think, so I'm going quicker now, and so it's going to be wearing down faster, so I'm going to slowly rotate the pencil. Now, what y'all don't see is that I have about 5 or 6 pencils that I sharpened beforehand. And that's another thing that I would recommend doing, is having pencils that are sharp. And this goes for when you do charcoal. You know, it goes for mixing paint. Mix enough paint. Don't do those tiny little piles of paint. Mix a lot of paint, right? You don't want to be slowed down by your supplies, because in the end, supplies, for how much a painting potentially could bring in monetarily, like money-wise, supplies aren't expensive. They're not that expensive, and it's definitely worth, you know, using them in abundance when you're working, so it doesn't slow you down. So I'm slowly, you can't see, but I'm slowly rotating my pencil some, and you can kind of feel it. As you can see, I'm not doing this. I'm not down like that. I'm up like that. Time to start over. I screwed it up. So we've got that, and then we just go through, take it off, right? That's it. Yeah, so like I haven't done a barge drawing in forever. I like this pencil. Sometimes like HBs are softer or harder than other HBs. It really depends. It's not always like they're even. Sometimes you find a pencil that's like, this one feels good. So I stick with it. So instead of getting another pencil, I'm just going to sharpen this. Right? Let me get a paper towel. Get this off on. I'll have to do it on my cockies. This kind of like bulges out just a little bit. So again, also one of the things you want to do when you shade, you don't want to do it too hard because it'll scar the paper. Like right now, I still need to change some things, and when you shade, it changes the value, it changes how your eye sees it, and sometimes you know, you can see more what needs to be done after you go through and shade. Yeah, the halftones and transitions, they're very difficult, and that's something that takes a lot of practice. They say that a very good draftsman, in fact, it's the subtlety, right? A very good draftsman knows how to do joints like wrists and ankles, fingers. They can do that with, you know, accuracy, and because that's subtlety of angles. Now, what you're talking about is the transitions and the halftones and all that stuff, and that's the subtlety in shading, right? That's the subtlety in shading. And one of the things that helps to do is to be able to key up your artwork, right? To judge all the values together, and that in itself takes practice. And you know, so this barge drawing in particular is a very basic value. I have the setup different, so I know y'all can see this here. You have this value, which I know is a little bit lighter here, but I would encourage you not to worry about this form in here right now. Like, I would just make this all flat right now. This is more or less a very flat, it's a very atmospheric drawing in terms of the shadows. And that's by design, because you're not gonna have 50,000 different shades in there that you have to key up, right? And the reason for that is, like you said, the halftones and the transitions, those are very hard things to do, especially when you first start, okay? And so, don't be discouraged with that. Okay. So sometimes I go back and forth, like I actually go back and forth like that. Sometimes I'll just come across like this, if that makes sense. Okay? I'm actually, in this case, lifting my hand off the paper some. Now I'm going back and forth with it, but I don't want to make like little marks when I go back and forth, if that makes sense. I don't want to do those things at the very end, okay? We just slowly build it up. And so if we have the shapes correct, then it should look quite nice. And notice when I'm doing this, I'm actually going through and working the whole thing up at once. You don't want to just work one area and then that's it, because it's going to become unbalanced. You want it to all work up evenly at the same time, so you maintain an accurate impression and give yourself a better chance of seeing the overall impression, being able to correct the shapes because you can see the overall impression. That's one of the most important things, is learning to work up the drawing at the same time. And you'll find that this translates over to paint quite nicely. Okay, so for anatomical purposes, just for understanding and just double checking the proportions, I'm going to go through and apply this neck piece, but I'm not going to really spend all day on it. I'm looking at this shape and I'm looking at this shape and this distance, right? So in essence, what we're doing, we're trying to go through and put this line in with as much of an educated guess as we can based off of all that we see here. Like, you want to use every single aspect of the drawing that you can. Yeah, I do shade in other directions. Like in this one, I'll probably be going in other directions like that too. I do that. However, if that's very difficult for you, I would still just recommend just perfecting this technique. I think at first, in fact, there was a drawing. You know what? The drawing that Steven was doing when we were in that stream together last week, that's one of the drawings that I did, and I think I have that at home at my parents' house, and I'll bring it in and show you. Okay? And we'll see what techniques I did. I don't remember. It's been a while. Okay, so let's go through and catch this area up just a little bit here. All right, now, again, I just want to state that this type of work, it's so, like, I could keep at this. I could keep doing this, okay? This is something where I could continuously work on, but I'm gonna push myself, I think, a little bit quicker, just for the sake of not boring you guys to tears with this stuff. So these points, I'm not just simply drawing them in. Like this part right here, I'm literally going through and saying, okay, if I carry this up through here, where does it go here? Because that does make a difference. You see that? Like, it goes right through up there. And then I'm looking at this shape right here, which I'm going to clean up for you right now. But I was actively looking at this light shape. So we're looking at the light shape and this shape. Now, again, Limo, I want to stress this because I found these dreadfully boring. It was horrible. I was just like, we would work for 3 hours on them, and the way it was, you worked in the morning or the evening on a barge drawing, or the afternoon, morning or afternoon. Now, the whole building, which consisted of probably about 25, 30 people, at least when I was there, was split up into two groups, right? And one group would work on the model, like live model, in the morning, and the other one in the evening, and then, you know, they would switch up, and, you know, then they would work on the barge drawing in the morning / evenings, so on. Well, halfway through, like an hour and a half, because the live model needed breaks. It would take 5-minute breaks every 25 minutes. And then after about 2.5 sittings or 3 or something, they would take a long break, which consisted of about 15, 20 minutes. So halfway through the 3-hour mark, a lot of us would go out with the, people who were doing the live model drawing, and we would go and get coffee. We'd take a break. And I couldn't wait. I hated it. I hated doing this so much. Still lives ditto. Still lives just, now that's how I make some money. I literally hated it so bad, but I saw the value in it, and I was like, you have to not hate this. You have to not hate this. So I would literally go and interview people. I would be like, what do you like about this? What do you like about still lives? And they would give me answers, and I said, that makes rational sense to me, but I can't see it right now. Okay, look at this. You have this line here, assuming this is correct. And I'm going to take this and go like this, and then this one's kind of coming down here to that. It's a little bit offset going that way, just slightly. Comes here and it starts about here, so I'm going to do that. That's how we figure that out. Now I'm going to look at this shape, which seems in the ballpark. I think mine seems a little bit big. That might be this part goes in, but I'm not going to worry too much about it right now. Okay, and then I'm going to cut this up, and it's very simple. Notice my grip is here. It's more controlled, but I'm actually skimming the paper. I'm not going dark at all. I'm really trying to make it as light as I can. This is kind of a concave as opposed to convex. Kind of goes in more like that as opposed to going out, which is what I have. Definitely not, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start the stream, is because, I'm at a certain point with this, but one of the cool things about art is that when you're 80 years old, you can still be learning, and you can learn from somebody who's younger, who's not as advanced as you are. I think it's one of the great mistakes that a lot of artists are like, I'm just going to express myself because I'm different and I'm unique. You are unique and you are different, but you need to learn the language, and there's also a level of hubris, of pride that goes along with that type of saying. And I don't subscribe to that. I don't like that attitude. And those people who think they know everything oftentimes know nothing. But like, I've known people who they say they're experts in this, and I look at them, they're just absolutely horrible. And I don't say that, but it's their attitude, and because they don't want, it's very scary to face your weaknesses, and that's what you have to do in art. That's how you have to be open and you have to learn. There's going to be people who are doing better at doing certain things in painting. It might come more natural than it does to you, right? So we have this. This is interesting here. So I already had this part in. Let's see this. We have this. This needs to line up here, and it's kind of close, but not really. So, okay, if I plumb line up this point down, this goes over that way. So that makes sense because this part I didn't draw correct. This actually comes out some, maybe. Or this might come out just a little bit, so I can't work out. But we're constantly learning. And, streaming, I just started this YouTube channel. And to grow the channel, streaming is not going to help. Not right now. But that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for a couple different reasons. One of them is because I need to get out of here, right? It's going to help me to articulate. I used to be much better at articulating when I was around a lot of people at the academy and such. And because I taught there, and when you have to teach and articulate and put things into words, especially when I was that young in painting, it really, it helps you understand art better. So in that way, I'm going to grow. But also, I really do, I'm not just saying this, I like getting to know you guys that are driven enough to watch somebody who is a nobody in terms of YouTube, there's so many other people that have been on this for a while that it's, you know, people gravitate, I think, towards the larger streamers or video creators and this and that. But this, and so that is something I greatly appreciate. And so it's a way to, you know, get out, and I enjoy teaching, and I learn a lot from doing it. Yeah, but it's not the way to grow your channel, right? It's the way you grow your channel is to make videos that people want to watch, which I can still do, but this also has its benefit. It has its benefit. Okay, so as you can see, this is like we're juggling stuff. We're really trying to... now, the reason why I'm going down here is because this needs to line up, right? This all needs to line up, so it's very easy to go through and start like saying I want to detail this, but I really need to be aware. Is it in the right place? Is it in the freaking right place? Oh, limo. Barge drawings, I tell you. Barge drawing. Do not feel bad if you hate them. Do not feel bad. This needs to drop. When I look at these pieces here, when I look at those little pieces, I'm literally looking at this whole piece, the whole piece. That's how you determine. Never just hone in. It's okay to like hone in to look at the detail, but then hone out, if that's a word or a phrase, hone out to make sure that what you're doing makes sense. And I promise you, your proportions will fall into place quicker than otherwise would. No, bar drawings are freaking nightmares sometimes. But they can also be good. Okay, so from this point down here, this is right there. So I'm just going to go through. I'm not worried about rounding it. I'm doing very soft and controlled. This part right here is a little bit iffy because this point right here is not lining up to where I have this. But let's see, if I plumb line this down, bring this here, this might come over just a hair width that way. Maybe just a hair width. At this level, it's just like a little touch of the pencil will completely change the gesture. Okay? That's another reason why having solid technique, and I don't mean like spending all day polishing. You don't want to do that, but you want to be fluid and have a solid technique so that you can see what needs to change, right? Remember when I did this, if it was like all scratchy like that, there's no way I could do this type of work here. And this isn't necessarily detailed work. I think it comes down like that. This part, if I'm looking at this, this is too big, which makes sense because this seems too pushed in that way. And if I look at this part right here, and if I want to draw a line up through here like that, if I draw a line up through here, like if there's a line going through here, then this space between that line and that point is too big as compared to where it is over on my other one, which shows me that either this needs to go that way, but I don't think that's the case. I think that this needs to go that way, which makes sense because this is too big. So it's a domino effect. So we're going to shift this over. I actually see it because when I was drawing this the other day, I just wasn't being precise. So we're going to tap, 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 tap. All right, so that's like really rounded, which is not good. That's called being overly generalized. That happened because I'm racing in a manner which is not conducive to maintaining the overall form. And then I'm not drawing well either, so that's a bad combination. You go through and shave this off some. And you just keep it light. Just keep it light. We'll get the form back. Okay, and then this actually comes up to that, and then this comes over like this, like that. I'm looking at this whole light shape here. this light shape. There we go. This is going to be soft, a soft edge. Okay. There. Okay, let's clean that up. There we go. There we go. There we go. Up, and then this is awesome. Some form to it. That's poor technique. So I think the balance is when you first start, you want to strive for technique, but you don't want to over polish to the point where you're not looking at the whole shape and you're just getting distracted and going in and doing tiny details. You don't want that. Like this right now, again, I would be doing on the second week, maybe the end of the second week if you first started. Maybe even the end of the third, right? My thoughts is that there's no shortcuts in drawing. There's shortcuts in lessons because maybe the lesson's a very painful lesson, so people will water the teachings down. But I'm thinking to myself, you know, you guys are in the stream. Y'all are serious enough to take the time to watch this. And so I think I would like to give you all the credit and say that you can do this. You can take the time to get this type of work and this type of learning. It's just, again, the hard thing is lack of a teacher that's present with it. Is it helpful to many? Is it helpful to? Is it helpful to many Bargue copies? Could you clarify that? Like to do many Bargue copies? I can give you a lesson plan if you like. I'm looking at this shape, I'm looking at this shape, I'm trying to get that overall shape. Yeah, is it helpful to do? Yeah, it is. It is helpful. I'll tell you the curriculum, I'll tell you what I did. I did 5 drawings of just the pencil drawings, and then I did 3 of the charcoal. Starting with the Barge drawings, I started with, like, you go from basic to more advanced, okay? You go from basic to advanced. And then for the charcoal, you know, this is something I'd like to do a video on too, probably. For the charcoal drawings, you start with something it doesn't necessarily, it can be basic, but then you do like an intermediate and then a more advanced one with the charcoal. And we're talking about, let me show you something. Well, shoot. I don't know if y'all can see it. Let me see if, give me 1 second, let me check something. I don't know if y'all will be able to see this. I want to show you something that my student did. She's gonna be so mad at me if she sees this, but I don't think she watches the stream. Is it? Huh. Oh wait. Oh my gosh, here it is. All right, guys, I found it. Walking, we're walking. Hopefully you can see this. So this, I think, is her second one. Let me see if, okay, it's like here. This is Dante Alighieri. her some, I guess. A little bit. Okay. Anyway, so this is one of her drawings, and it's a larger drawing, but you know, that's what you do. Like, you could see in relationship to the paper. Yeah, of course. 1 second, let me make sure that this is close enough to me as well. Turn the volume up. In a second. It does seem a little bit low, doesn't it? Oh, wait. Wait a second. Okay, how's that? Is that better? Has to be better. So I charged this, but it says it might run out of batteries. If it does, I have another one. I'll try to use that. Okay. Anyway. Lamo, how many have you done so far, and which ones have you done, like, as far as like how difficult they were? The baby head. Oh, yeah, I know that one actually. That one's tricky. Is that the first one you did? The foot from the side. I think I did that one too. It's the same one. It's off. I'm stabbing myself. Baby was the two. Okay, so the second one. Gotcha. That's good. So you did the foot from the side, the baby. All right, that's good. Look, I would do, and how long did it take you to do each one? The Belvedere torso, that's a good one. And did you do like a small version of that one? I assume you did. It wasn't, because like oftentimes you can do a small version of that. Oftentimes we do the charcoal drawing, and it would be on, is it 18 by 26, I think, or something that the paper is. We work on Roma paper, which I think is like print paper, but it's a very good paper for working with this specific type of fusate nitrum charcoal that we work with. So technique is very important here. I'm really trying to be as precise as I can at this stage, because the main shapes are, I mean, it's in the ballpark. It's in the ballpark. It's not totally there, so there's going to be a little bit of inaccuracy with this, but you guys get the idea. The torso is small. Yeah, good. All right, awesome. So you've done 3 of them. Now how long, okay, each about 2 to 5 weeks. Perfect. Perfect. Do 2 more, and do, honestly, I'd have to see your work. I don't know how accurate they were. How do you check them? You just do it yourself? Hair width. And this is so picky, but this is how this type of work, this is how it is. Really making sure we see the angles, be faithful to the angles, even at this detailing stage is so crucial, it's very important. It's how you're gonna get the subtlety. All right, we talked about the technique. Do them yourself. Okay. I'm working on coming up with a way that you're going to be able to check it yourself. I'm coming up with that because there needs to be a way, because here's the thing, the landscape of teaching has changed. It's always best, and I don't think this is ever going to change, it's always best to do it in person. And of course, I will be doing at some point critiques, probably via Patreon, kind of like everybody does it, and I think Zoom calls or something, and it'll be limited, but I'm not going to do that yet. I'm not going to do that quite yet. But, and the thing with that is you can only help a small amount of people, and which is good. It's good. It doesn't matter like if it's just one person. That's a good thing. But there needs to be a better way of teaching. Like there's online, everything's online. And for art specifically, there has to be something we can do. And so I'm working on that as we speak. Because again, you know, Limo, people like you, you're in various streams, you're really pulling yourself to it. You're serious about this stuff. You're more serious than I was, I'm assuming. Well, of course, we didn't have streams like back in 2000 when I went to the school. Still, you're serious about this. You're taking the time to do this. Can't have a watered down version of this stuff. We need to really figure that out. Figure it out. I do think the streaming helps. I think this helps because in my videos, I get stupid with them for good reason. I'm trying to make it so that people absorb the information better and people need to loosen up, they need to relax, blah, blah, blah. That's a good thing. And for those who are serious, to just watch this stuff, get done. I learned the most from my teachers when they just did it for me. There's a very good painter named Hunter Eddy who was teaching at the Florence Academy when I was there, and I love Hunter. Hunter he's an amazing painter, really cool guy. I'm like, I want to be cool like him. Anyway, I remember when I transitioned from drawing, because you're drawing, I drew for 2 years. They said it would take a year. I drew for 2 because I sucked, and that's okay, right? I learned. Anyway, when you transition to painting, at least when I did, I was so bad. And I would tell Hunter, I was like, Hunter, like, I know what you're saying, like when he's teaching me about painting, saying what I need to do, but like the concept still for me, because I had never done it before, was just so insanely abstract. I was like, I just need to see it. So I remember one day, you know, the teachers go around and critique as they do and stuff. And when he came to my studio, and it's tiring when you have to critique literally 30 people twice. That's your day of teaching. It's tiring. Trust me, it is tiring. And and this was before I was doing that. And you know, I think I was in my into the second year, beginning of third year. And Hunter walks in, and he just had that look. He was tired. And he looks at me and says, "Give me your palette." I said, "Okay." And he looks at me and says, "I need this." I said, "Go for it, man." And he just painted on my still life. And he like reworked like this huge area of it. I was like, this is awesome, because I was learning, but also my still life was becoming amazing. Because it was crap. I didn't know what I was doing. Did not know what I was doing. Anyway, it was amazing. And so then he painted probably for about 15-20 minutes, and he just quiet. He didn't say a word. He didn't say a word. He was just like, he was just glazed over on his face, just like, oh. And then he left, and then afterwards, some people came in, they saw my work, they're like, wow, you really did a good job with this. I was like, thanks. Totally took credit for it. I was like, yeah, you know, it was a good day, Technique's a little bit off, but still, I think, you know, overall, it's all right. Oh, man. But there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way. There has to be a better way. I have some ideas. I just need to experiment with them in terms of, if you're by yourself, if you're learning by yourself, how do you critique yourself? As there's a course, a Barge Drawing course, there needs to be something that is updated for 2021 in a digital world, right? 2021 in a digital world. This is off. Whew. My raking skills aren't good today. Alright, so Lamo, you see this? I am just taking my time, and I'm really trying to work these line qualities and get the breaking points, right? You want to get the form correct. You want to get these little angles that you see everywhere. It's down there. Let's see this part. If that's there. So you see how I cross them? That helps me to get the angles better. Yeah, community-based learning. Exactly. Well, Dark 27. You're exactly right, man. Community-based learning. How do you optimize it? How do you optimize it? There has to be a way to optimize your asses so that you can absorb this. So you can do this type of stuff. You can do this type of stuff. This angle's off. This line is too high that way. So it's subtlety. This part. You make a Patreon community and teach the highest tier yourself. The thing is, again, then they help the lower tiers with the feedback. But yeah, maybe. So I'm brainstorming with this stuff, and this could change. But like I said before, I want to make one tier where everything's everything, but if you want the training, you just watch the streams. I just don't want to put anything behind a wall. I don't want to hold, because then that means, the thing is, like you guys, for example, if you guys stick with it, and if you guys do this type of work, you know, the Patreon page, yeah, I guess the Patreon page, like in general, but I want to make that like so affordable, just like it's a no-brainer. Because there are a lot of people, like being an artist, I know like a couple dollars isn't that much. But like you guys, if you guys got this stuff, you could help out the same tier, right? You can go through and say, look, these are the teachings, just think of it this way, think of it that way. I don't know if I need an upper tier to help a lower tier. If it's all one tier, you just have people who know what they're talking about, and I could go through and say, these are the people, right? Appoint you guys as people who, we're brainstorming here. I don't know, this is not set in stone, but appoint you guys to go through and say, okay, look, think of it like this, think of it like that. You know, I'm talking about a year, 2 years down the road, potentially, whatever, maybe less. You can still do the streams, but feedback is important. You only have so much time to provide feedback. This is very true. This is true. Like, that's the thing. I do have to monetize this. I do have to monetize because, like, right now, let's bring in the money in, and there's still life. I'm telling you, I had to overcome my hatred. I hated still life, and sometimes I still do. That's how I survive. And this type of stuff in the videos. But there has to be a way to do it. There has to be a way to do this. I'm going to think about that. You gave me something to think about, but I don't know if I want to do a separate tier for that. I think I want to make it accessible to everybody, but there are people within that first tier that just bring more value, like you guys. You would bring so much value to those people, assuming that you learned this stuff proper, right? Assuming, which you would, if I can get my ass on this thing and figure out a good way. All right, so you see, Lamo, check this out. These small angles, sometimes, like if you're doing small angles, you should do small lines, and sometimes that works. Sometimes that works. I lost my shoe. Where is it? Okay. But like, again, when I go through and crisscross them, working on that area right there, like crisscrossing, like that, it defines it better. It makes a better defined line. Okay. And then you go through and clean it up with the eraser. Excuse me. Switch to the left. Because I can do that. Hey guys. Termine. Crowdfunding? As in keeping the streams free, cheap, and go crowdfunding for specialized topics. I have to look into that. I'm not like really certain over what that is, to be honest. That's like, it's almost like, what's that one where it's like you raise money for yourself, like for causes or whatever. I have some ideas. But it's like, here's the thing. If there's any support coming to me, it's more out of just wanting to support the channel, and it will get value out of it, but still, like, these streams don't hold anything back. It's for everybody. A Kickstarter, yeah. I don't think I need a Kickstarter or release it for free, cheap. Yeah. Like, I think I do want to put a program together over time and put it out for $5 or $10, but it's nothing that you can't get from this, but it's an organized program. So it's not something that you're like, I need to get that, otherwise I'm not going to know. But it's like, oh, $5, $10, I watch this stuff. I don't mind supporting somebody do that. Like, you know, that's, I think, where I would want to go with it. There's other things I can do. There's ways of doing it, but something where it's like, it helps me keep this stuff going, but the people who get it are like, this is great, like I got so much out of this, it was totally worth it. I didn't need to do it, but it helped. You know, something where it's like a win-win-win, right? Maybe that's the thing, the Patreon should be a good community, but you know, the community too is the stream, which is why I'm starting this. Because like I said, you don't build your channel. Like my channel is just, as you know, you guys who are worth like 50, but it's like, what do I have? Like 329, 330 subscribers, which is not bad for a year. I didn't think I'd have this many, honestly, after a year. Especially when I couldn't use my left or my right arm when I started. You don't build your channel doing streams, you build it doing videos that people want to watch. Which I'm gonna do. You guys know Scott Burdick, right? Y'all asked me about him, I think, the first time we streamed, right? I think you did. Yeah. Okay, good. He's awesome. I'm working on a video, and that's all I'm going to tell you right now. I was editing, and it's taken so much out of me. I was editing, and I literally, oh yeah, his work is freaking amazing. And Susan, yeah, she's probably downstairs right now. I was asking for Scott, I needed his help with something, and I was dressed up in my costume, and she's like, what the hell? And I freaked her out, but she was a good sport about it. But when I try to explain, like, oh no, the video, because she hadn't seen any of my stuff. I don't think she knew I was doing this. Maybe she did, but you know, when you start trying to explain that, I started like, no, look, it's cool. I sounded psycho, and it was just a downhill conversation. It was pretty funny, but she's a good sport about it. She's a good sport. I've known her for some time, and they've always been very supportive, and they're always saying, you need to get your ass in gear. So I know. They're always saying, you need to do shows, you need to do this, and that's not, I do need to do shows, and that's one of the best things you can do, and I have not done that. I've been doing commissions. My work is in high demand by a few people. Is Susan Lyons related to Howard Lyon or just a coincidence? I don't know. Don't know. It's probably a coincidence. Do not know. Okay, so the key is you got to look at the light shape and the dark shape at the same time. So this line, like this distance, I really need to make sure that's good. This is good, which is in the ballpark, so you can see why like this dips in too far to this. It does a little bit, and that's too long. So we need to fix that, but I'm gonna go through nonetheless, kind of bring this. Here, I'm gonna switch pencils. Look, pencils. Or I'm going to sharpen it, because these don't seem too appealing to me. Oh, that's 1,000 times better. I don't know why I didn't do that before. There we go. That's so much better. So, okay, Lamo, I was fighting the pencil the whole time. Now it's easier to get the lines that I want. All right, so just learn from my errors. And take heart that I've been doing this for literally 20. 20 years at this point, and look at the time that I'm taking to do this. I'm taking my time, I think. Okay, I see what happened here. This actually cuts in. This cuts in some, but just a little bit. Or does it? through and get this piece in so I can measure this point to there, which I think I just screwed it up, but it's okay, I can bring it back out. There, and this, I'm going to look at this width, this whole width. Ever so slightly, just lift it on. It's got a width fit. Oh yeah, so good. Ah shit. Actually, this actually does come up some. So good. This is so easy for me. It's so freaking off. This comes up like that. Looking at this shape now, we need to get those points so that there's definition. Okay. This is too short. Okay. So I'm going to slowly shave that in. Constantly clean the eraser. I'm folding it and then doing the knife edge. Solid. You want to get a solid line off it. I'm going to lose the drawing a little bit with it, but that's okay. Go back over it. All right, so you see I lost all the drawing there. And I'm going to go back. Actually, let's bring this up a little bit. See, this is such minor movements, which I think is boring to watch, honestly, but it's educational, I guess. Okay. Up there. And then this part pops out some to where I had it before. Judged. So that pops out. And then what we're going to do, I'm not pressing hard, I'm pressing very light, but I'm just going very controlled. It's an HB, so it can go dark without scarring the paper. And see, I'm just constantly going back and forth between the pencil and the eraser. Cross. We're going to go through and shave that off, so then we're going back into it. There we go. Look at that. Okay. Let's go through and redefine this. One. Oh. Let's follow through, and then we're going to go through and clean it up. You see, line quality is key. But notice I'm not going fast, right? And every line that I've done, we've been able to erase it pretty easily, okay? So, because again, if you start scarring the paper, you're going to be working against your own technique, right? So you need to learn how to do nice, sharp, soft lines that do not scar the paper, and eventually you will start feeling it, right? You'll be able to get a sense. You'll just know. Let's clean this up. Let's clean this bitch up. Here, and then this angle is off, which makes sense because this actually needs to raise up a little bit, like so. I have the sketched in, looking, it's in the ballpark correct. Okay. Make sure I don't get it from the camera. It's the thing, like, honestly, like, I'd be up. Normally, okay, so when I work, normally I'm standing. I'm not used to sitting while I work. It's very weird for me. Like, I feel like I can't get the right angle, but that's just something I need to get used to if I'm going to be doing this. Just take your time. Shade it in. And then I've kept it light. So let's go through and get a little bit of definition here. See that? So I'm going to carry this line through. Do you see why I do that? I'm saying to myself, and that's wrong. Damn it. You see why I'm doing this? And then it's wrong. This is funny. You gotta laugh sometimes. You just gotta laugh. You just gotta laugh. What are you gonna do? Okay, take two. We're gonna go through. I'm probably blocking it. Okay. All right, that's actually really close. It's sharper here than it is in the center, so I'm just going to accentuate that point just a little bit. It's going to be softer there. So here, I don't know if you guys can tell, there's a slight value. The light side right here that I'm going to take out, that's going to enable it to actually have more of a breaking point. Immediately made it worse. Let's try this hand. There we go. Go through. Okay, pencil. There we go. Too sharp, but that's okay. All right. Here. This point, there's a little accentuation here. Oops. Oh wait, I screwed that up. Subtle, subtle, subtle. That comes up. There you go. That comes up. Just ever so slightly, which makes sense because that's too long. So this actually raises just a little bit. Just a little. Take this, I'm going to put it here. I'm just going to press it up just a little bit. Just touch it. And that'll give it a little bit more form. It'll push it up some. It'll make it a little bit fuller, which is what we want, my friends. My dear peasants. And I'm looking at the overall shape. Mine still, this part probably needs to come up just a little bit. For now, I'm just going to leave it because, again, you can just keep at this and continuously do this. Here. Work the edges, work the inside, make it even. Okay? When you shade, go all the way to the edges. Don't stop. Okay? Just don't stop. Partway through. Round that out just a little bit. Okay. Just getting the impression of it. Here. Let's get some of the form back. And I'm going to go through and actually shade this part just a little bit. Make sure my head's not going over its side. I don't think. This point, top point is this little piece. This, that, this. I'm looking at the light shade and dark shade. They all have to line up. Okay, look at this shape right here. Now, I have a theory on this. This comes out, bring it down. This comes in. This light shape, that's correct. Now. Look now. This shape is way too thin. And I know why that is. That's what I said before. Pretty much. Feed this in. So I'm not really, like, I'm literally, you can take the pencil out of my hand like that. That's how I'm holding it. Okay. Hold the board because it's annoying when it freaking flaps. So you see, Limo, I'm just going back and forth. And so sometimes when you shade, you lose the drawing a little bit. Sometimes you lose the drawing. All that means is that you need to get the lines back. There we go. That just means you need to get the lines back. There was a stray line here that I'm going to take out. There. There we go. Clean the eraser. Twist. Pinch. And you have a thin knife edge. Clean with. You see that? I'm constantly going through and trying to define and redefine these angles and make them nice and clean and crisp. That's what you want. You want definition. Like I said before, this part right here is too thin. So what needs to happen? We need to bring this up just a little bit. This might need to go over that way some, maybe. This line is off. Let's redefine this here. So, like I said, we lost our drawing. Coming back up. So the drawing back. Shave that just a little bit, just a slight bit. I don't think this line needs to go that way. I'm looking at this shape and that seems in the ballpark to me from this angle. Okay? Slightly shaved, just a hair width there. It's gonna make a slight difference. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna draw with the eraser. We're not gonna draw with the pencil. We're gonna draw with an eraser. It should be light enough to do so. That's why I kept it HB, because also, by the way, if my mic goes out, say something here, I'll switch mics because I have a spare one that hopefully will work. Okay. If not, I'll use the computer. It won't be good, but we'll finish the stream that way. Where was I? Oh yes, we're going to draw with eraser to raise this up a little bit. Just a little bit to expand this light area some, okay? You can draw with the eraser. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no shame. There's no shame. There's no defeat in this dojo. See? So I'm looking at the light shape. We're drawing with the eraser. We can do so because I kept it with an HB. I kept it soft. I kept it controlled. Okay? Nice and controlled. I'm looking at this whole shape here. And in my genius mind, this part right here needs to come out that way some. If we were looking at this whole shape, it needs to kind of pop out that way. This piece might actually go in that way a smidgen because the overall gesture and the shape are incorrect. I was having a conversation. Do y'all know who John Peck is? Have y'all heard of him? He's one of my very good friends from the academy. He's a very smart man, good friend. I was having a conversation with him the other day because we spoke about the Loomis method, which I think there's value to the Loomis method. I think that's good if you're going to graphic design and comic book because it forces you, it helps link the three-dimensional aspect to the 2D. Here, it prevents you just from going through, like Barge Drawing, you could go through and look at proportions and get too anal about it and forget that it's a three-dimensional form. And it's good that the Loomis method is good for that. But in our line of work, this stuff, what we're trying to go for, we try to get the proportion, we try to get the body type, and we try to get the gesture, right? So those three things, you get the proportion, it's not all the same, right? Gesture of actual physical movement and body parts have certain gestures to them, right? Like my wrist, you know, has this S effect to it, right? That's the gesture. It's the body type, right? Those things are very unique. And I guess the Loomis method can do that, but if you're just making something up with the Loomis method, I can see it being more generic, whereas this, you're going through actually trying to go through, look at the specific angles and points, all the while keeping in mind the anatomy and everything that makes the body type, everything that makes the gesture. And so that's one of the great things about this type of stuff. And really, Charles Bargue did these drawings as, you know, to tell us how to translate something from 3D to 2D. That's one of the things we're learning. That's why we start with this stuff. That's why we don't go into 3D at first, right? Because we don't know how to accurately represent 3D, something three-dimensional. But in bar drawings, you can really go through and keep in mind gesture, body type, proportion. That's what you want to be looking at. We're learning proportion. We're learning gesture. And the reason why I brought that up is because I'm looking at this piece right here, and there's a gesture to it that was lacking before. I came to the conclusion that it is this shape because of that, number one, but because of proportions, number two, in that these tiny shapes, when looking at the larger shape, did not fit in. This light shape was not correct. That's how we come to those conclusions. Mount Sal Inti in Salde. Hey, legend. But that's how we come to those conclusions. So you can come to the conclusion that something needs to shift in more than one manner, which is pretty freaking sweet. Pretty freaking sweet. Even with this, again, crap. I'm just looking at the overall larger shape. All right, mic's still on, that's a good sign. I mean, I freaking charged it last night. It's good. Golden? Is it golden? There's only one man who calls me good. Is that golden? If not, it's a coincidence. Okay. So you'll see how we're building this form up here. Even this, right here, I need to make sure that this is not too small. And this gesture, right here, my gesture differs from over there because this part right here, on mine, it's like this. In reality, it's like, it goes up some, okay? That's the gesture, right? It's not just, we're not just going through and blindly moving lines just to put them how we think we see it. There's a lot of reason and common sense involved in this, and there are things that you learn to look for. And gesture is a huge thing, a huge part of it. Now, saying that, like I moved it up and I kind of, what I should have done first is, oh crap. Okay, what I should have done first before I actually moved it was to see if this is in the right point, because maybe mine was like this area right here was kind of like coming up like this, right? Whereas in reality it was kind of going over more like that. But maybe mine's not supposed to do that, as it is more of like this lower part comes in. So we need to check that. And the way you do that, if I look at this piece right here, assuming that this is correct. In fact, let's go through and make sure this is correct here. Let's make sure this is correct. Because this top part right here does not seem accurate to me. I think this point, which I brought out that way some, I think this might come out just a hair width. Which would make sense because I really didn't bring that out that much. I think this comes out a hair width. Also, it felt like to me that the angle of mine, like this angle right here, was going too far that way, and it kind of should have done that some. So I think if I bring this out, okay, and then this, it's kind of like a double line up there, so. Just do that. Ooh. And I'm going to sharpen this one. We're starting to fight the pencil. Yep, there. This comes down here. Actually, if I'm looking at this, oh man, it's so close, okay. This comes out just a little bit that way. It was just a hair width out. I'm looking at this shape and I'm looking at this shape and I'm trying to look at this whole thing, like all the shadow shapes and light shapes in here as a shape. Mine's too thick. That normally happens because people tend to over-analyze, observe, which normally means they magnify, which is what I did. So I'm going to actually bring this in some. It's more of the gesture that I'm missing here. It kind of comes in just a little. And then it pops out some. And I'm actually going to bring this in just a hair width. Okay? And then this part I'm going to bring no, I'm wrong. I brought that in too much. Let's go through it. Let's fix this. What needs to happen? I'm going to shave that down just slightly, just clean that edge up. That'll give it an impression that it's a little bit thinner, which it does need to be. There, and then this actually needs to come up some. That should fix this gesture from looking a little bit too squashed. I'm talking about the light shape, this bottom light shape. Now, why did I see this? It's not just that I saw this. When I start thinking, okay, I need to go through and do the detail in the hair here. Well, if this is too thin and you put the detail in, it's not going to be enough light shape in there, right? So, and I'm assuming that this is correct, and I'm working with this shape right here. Let's go through and do a little bit. Okay, Carmina, see ya, buddy. Ci si vede. Thanks for stopping by, man. I really appreciate you. Carmina. There we go. Should fix the gesture. Now, I'm just going to relax my eyes, sit back, and admire my handiwork. Now you just sit back, stare at the proportions overall, right? overall, it's in the ballpark. It's in the ballpark. It's in the ballpark. But I did bring this over too far. This needs to go in just a little bit. A hair width. The top. There we go. There we are. Now, making sure the angles are correct, right? This angle right there is like that, right? Like if you really were to magnify it. Okay, so we're gonna take this. Let's clean it just a little bit. That was too much, but that's okay. I'm gonna come back into it. Ever so lightly. There we are. Okay, let's go through and put this in. We have this here. I'm rotating my pencil still. As I do when I shade, I also do when I draw the lines in. So you want to have those clear breaking points. You want to have it not just to keep the form. You want to have it because it's easier to judge. If you can see points, angles, as opposed to like circles. Circles you can't judge anything off of. Circles you can't judge something off this, right? You can judge something off that because you have this point right there. You can judge it off that. That's why it's very good. It's worth your time to really spend time getting cleaning the lines up and stuff and making them like that, especially at this stage. Especially at this stage. Especially at this stage. Pencil's getting fuzzy. I'm going to switch it again. Which one did I use? Let's do this. And guys, I use different pencils and stuff. To me, it's just like you're starting. Just use whatever. I don't really see them as. It's not like imperative that you have the perfect pencil. They've all been. Well, I've been using the Noir or whatever pencils. But, oh shoot, that's way too dark. This pencil's screwed up. Kidding. It's the pencil's fault. It's not the pencil's fault. It's your fault. Looking at this connection here. Lightly clean the lines in. Okay, now I'm looking at this. That's what I'm looking at. Slowly putting on. Go through and we're going to shape this out a little bit. Just slowly touching, like ever so lightly touching the paper. Just touch it, just a little bit. This, you see, I form it in various knife edges. Sometimes they're thinner, sometimes they're thicker. Right? It's all very practical. It's all very, very much planned, and of course effortless. It's easy for me. It's so easy. So freaking easy. Make sure this lines up. This comes down. Let's clean this up. Let's clean this up. Get that pyramid here. Okay. Rolling it, twisting, pinching. There we go. There. So, like, I do so much drawing with eraser, so much. That's how you clean up your work. And limo, like I said before, sometimes if you get splotches in your drawing, right, you can go through and do the same thing. If you're still here, limo. But you can go through and kind of clean it up, like these little splotches. And then you can go back over it, right? You just go back and forth, and that's how you do it. Now, again, the reason why I don't stub is because I like the look when it's like evenly worked up with your hand, and I think for this type of work it's good practice because it teaches you control, but there's nothing wrong with stubbing. That's a personal preference with me, but it is better. Okay. So we have this, and notice I've saved this stuff to the very end. This is actually a little bit thin. Maybe a little bit. Actually, is it? So, but essentially we've been trying to do the large shapes at the same time, right? I mean, that's what I've been looking at. I've been trying to get the main shapes. This goes down just a hair width. Just a hair width. We've been trying to get the main shapes, and yet we've detailed it doing so, right? I didn't go through and say, okay, now time to detail. Don't do that. You constantly try to get the large shape, and you slowly and organically break that larger shape down, and then you've done the detail. Dude. Oh, brah. That's how you do it. You just keep on working on the big shape, you get the detail. It's all one. They're all one and the same. It's all one and the same. They work in perfect harmony. This is distracting. Let me take this off. There, it's better. Slowly sharpen. Look at that. See, we're getting definition back here. That's too long. So you see, when we get definition, we can kind of see what is too long, what's too short. Whereas when it's curved and generalized and the technique is poor, you can't see that. That's how technique will assist you at this stage to push the drawing forward, as long as you're looking for the overall shape of it, which is what we're always supposed to be doing. We're always supposed to be doing it. And again, this is easy. This is, I mean, this is so easy for me. I'm not even trying at all. Dang, that's wrong. Okay. Let's bring this down. Wait. 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 If I plumb line directly over this point to this point, where does it go? Pretty much right there. So this comes up just a little bit, which makes sense. That's where it is. This part comes up just a hair width. This part comes up just a hair width here, though. And this part is going to come out some, which makes sense because I did kind of shave it off. I haven't really done much of that. So we're just going to bring this out, but I'm going to do a straight line coming across here. That might be too far, but let's see how this works. That is too far. I'm not even going to attempt. Bring that back in. It's at this level. It's just such subtlety. Okay. Here we go. Right there. Temptations to make it too dark, which I'm not going to do. It might be too big. Okay. Okay, there. So subtle. Slight gesture. Slight gesture. Don't want to make it too much. Down. Might have lost some form. Have to go back and get it. This, I'm going to draw with the eraser here. I'm going to essentially take it and press the line out that way just a little bit. Gives it that gesture coming out. And then I rolled and then pinched this eraser slightly so I have a little point. I'm going to cut it down just ever so slightly there. Ah, that was my shoulder. Felt kind of good. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a slight accent right here. It's be very soft, solid line. That I wanted. Oh, all right. That. Let's just do this. Let's do this. Do 3 marks. See? So we work it, lose the drawing some, go back and get it. Mine looks a little bit droopy. This part right here is pushed in, I think, just a little bit. It's going down a little bit. That's okay. In fact, I'm not going to bring the line up as much as I am push it up a little bit. Let's see if this helps. Just a little bit. So that helped it some. I think when I take this off, it'll take away the illusion that it's drooping down some. I think. Huh. I'm normally right. So I've been working on a video, the model stain video, and I was up. I mean, I was working on it all day yesterday and painting in here, but it was all day, and I don't think I've slept so well in my life. I literally fell asleep in the same position I woke up in. 8 hours later. Like I fell asleep like this. I was like, I woke up, I'm like I did not move. Like I did not move at all. That's a good sign right there. Hopefully. Granted, I peed my bed, but it was worth it. I'm kidding. It's disgusting. Sorry. I'm looking. I think this drops down to the hair width. Like a hair width. And it's a little bit lighter. There we go. All right. So I hope you guys see the value in this. And again, is it boring? Yeah, and I can't tell if this is about to run out of batteries or not. There's two things. Maybe this one is. Well, whatever. Let's catch the rest of the stuff up. So I've been working up here a lot, and it just helps to just go and just look at the whole shape. Missing, we don't need to put those in quite yet. It's just most important that you get the main shapes to it. It looks in the ballpark to me, in the ballpark. It looks in the ballpark. I'm not going to mess with that right now. Okay. Let's go down here, catch this up a little bit, and then we'll end the stream in a second. Okay, so here's my plan. Thursday, maybe. So Yuri doesn't get to watch this because I'm streaming at a bad time for him / her. I don't know if Yuri is a man or a woman. But I'm thinking maybe, I'm not committing yet, but maybe on Thursday I'll stream, and y'all don't need to be here for both of them because this is a lot. Because I can't do it any other day. I'm thinking I stream same time, Thursday, 11:30, and then maybe 6 o'clock that evening too, right? 6 o'clock that evening for like an hour or two. That's one thing. I need to stream for Yuri. Like I said, this thing is it's for all of us. I get to know you guys who support me at this early stage in this magical little journey. And it helps me. It helps get me out, and you guys ask me questions. Half the time I don't know the answers to, then I go and learn them, and I become more educated. And then that means I can be more smug. That's what life is about. Always need to act better because you are, if you're an artist, you act better than everybody. Bunch of peasants out there, I don't know what they're talking about. They're so smart. They're so damn smart. Sounds like a plan. Damn right it is, Queldar27. So I don't know yet. But that is what I might do. Okay. You see that? How that's thick? That was by design. Now, the only way you can work like this is if you know how to control your lines and make sure that it does not scar the paper. That's the only way. But the advantage will be you'll be able to shape the lines with the eraser. When you feel like you're starting to fight your pencil, either sharpen it or switch to a new one. One might be too much, but if I go through and shave this down, no, it's too much. Okay. So you see how we're lightly shaping it? This is over modeled. It's like too bumpy right now. That's okay. It's all right. There we go. Also, this is a good technique. When you're doing some line like that, you know, you don't breathe. Breathe. You want to slowly be exhaling oftentimes when you do these lines. You'll be surprised it actually increases your self-control, your line quality and your control. It's a very strange thing. It's just, I've found that, and it's not like anything official, it's just something that I have found. I wasn't taught that, if that makes sense. But it makes some sense. All right, let's work on this quality here. Quality of line. Now this kind of, there's the gesture. You see this gesture here? It kind of comes out some. You guys remember how much we've worked on this. Remember we shifted it before and such, but now this is in the ballpark at least. Now we get to work on it. We haven't put this little transitional value in yet because everything else is shifting. Keep it simple. Just put one value in. Put the one value in, the main value in. You have a dark value and a light value. That's why this one's so good, is because this is one of the more basic ones. You don't have a lot of form within the light. It's very washed out, right? Everything's very diffuse. Just big basic shapes. You learn essentially there's like 3 values maybe in this. You have the light, you have the dark, and then you have the midtones. You could argue 4 if you're looking in this area here and want to make that you know, a darker midtone. But nonetheless, it's very limited. This is why this is good. It's not just the complexity of the shapes, but the simplicity of them. It's also the shadow shapes that are in it. Not too dark yet. Maintain an impression. We've lost the drawing up here, partially because I literally butchered it in the beginning, explaining to Lamo about shading. So it's Lamo's fault, it's not my fault. Lamo. Guys, we'll be ending the stream very shortly, and maybe what we'll do, you know, I'll finish this up this week, okay, and that way we can move on to something next week. And but before we do finish it up, let me know what you want to see, and maybe I'll do it. Like if you want to see another bar drawing, or you want to see a painting, like what do you want to see me do next? What do you need? I could do another bar drawing. This is fun because it's different than I've been painting a lot, and this is actually very helpful to me. I'd like to see a charcoal drawing. Woo! You want to see a charcoal drawing of a barge drawing, or what do you want to see a charcoal drawing of? Mother of pearl. What do you want to see a bar drawing of? Anything you want. Anything I want. Anything I want, huh? It's interesting. Fascinating. Think about that. They're talking about me outside. I can hear them. just want to learn how to use the medium. I'll teach you all about the medium. So I'm looking at this. At this shape. I'm trying to think about this shape. Eraser. Looking at this as a light shape here. Let's clean this up. Clean that down some. Alright, I'm going to lighten this from the shadow side. I don't need to, but it helps make this stand out less to me so that I see the overall impression. It doesn't, you see that makes a slight difference. It looks a little bit cleaner. I can work with it better that way. I got to keep in mind the actual mouth is here. There's a shadow shape falling onto the lower lip, right? The reason why I mention that is because when we're trying to go through and find the height, width, and all that stuff, that's a very valuable information. So again, very light, because y'all have to keep in mind, again, I'm pushing this and I have more experience doing this. But if you don't have the experience, you want to keep on it longer. Again, I'm just reiterating: keep it light, keep it simple, keep it simple. All right. Good. The Draftsman podcast? No, but I'll check that out. I'll check that out, Limo. Very good. All right. Very good. So this seemed to be too far out that way, and this light shape was too small, so we cut it in that way, and we judged off 2 points to confirm our suspicions. And that's how we roll. That's how we do it. You see that? Does this make me look smarter when I draw like this? Just talk. Maybe cock my head to the side. Does it look like, do I look more intelligent? It's not about what we draw, it's about how you look when you draw. Right? Get this drawing back.